So far, we've actually just seen a tip of the iceberg of different ways to create and use transitions. Let's take a closer look in this video. Now we want to reverse the animation when the track panel is tapped again. In previous videos, we only created one scene because the current scene already implicitly exists. In order to go back and forth between two scenes, we need to explicitly create both of them and save them somewhere. The process is straightforward. We create an instance of the transition manager, create our scenes, and use the transition manager to set up the transitions between all possible routes. Remember to enter the first scene to kick off everything, and call transition 2 when we are ready to play the animation. Let's check out the code. We will need to do a little refactoring to get this to work exactly how we want it to. It's a bit of work, but it should all make sense when it's all in place at the end. So first of all, down here in our onClick method, we want to delete the transitionmanager.go line. Next, we're going to select all of the code in this method, everything up here, up to the top, and we're going to extract it into a new method. So if I click on Refactor, Extract, New Method, let's call this Setup Transition. And it's trying to pull in a view parameter, but let's uncheck that. We don't want to pass one in. We only need it for the context, and we'll be able to get that in just a moment. So here's the context. You can see it was trying to get it from the view, but now, because we're in the activity, we can just use this, and we can delete this view line that was generated. Now when we extracted the method, it put the method call right here in onTrackPanelClick. We want to cut it from here and actually put it up here in the onCreate method so that the transitions are created right away. And actually, I meant to name this Setup Transitions because we have more than one, so I'm just going to change it and then add the S down here as well. So next, we're going to go and create a transition manager field for this class that we're going to use in the onClick method later. So up here at the top, under our binding variables from Butterknife, let's add a new private transition manager named mTransitionManager. We're also going to convert our existing expanded scene into a field because we'll need to use it in a separate method as well. So also type private scene mExpandedScene. And while we're here, we're also going to need another scene for the collapsed scene that we return to. So add private scene and call this one mCollapsedScene. Let's update the code where expanded scene is currently being used as a local variable. So that's in our new setup transitions method. And here, instead of expanded scene, we can refactor this to use the new name. So refactor, rename, and then we call this mExpandedScene, and you can see it's updating in the code below. And we can get rid of the scene type now that we have it declared up top. Now let's also not forget to initialize our new transition manager field here at the start of setup transitions. So add a new line and type mTransitionManager equals new transition manager. We're going to have two transitions here, so let's update the name transition set. And now since this one is for the expanded scene, so let's select the name, and again we'll do refactor, rename. And since this one is for the expanded scene, let's call it expand transition set. It's now time to create the scene when the views are collapsed, meaning the lyrics are collapsed down and no longer visible. We use the same method to create the scene from the layout activity album detail. We're basically just returning to normal. The transition going from expanded scene to collapsed scene is almost the same as the current one, except that we need to switch the order of the fade and the change bounds transitions. So we can actually copy paste a bit of this code and then walk through the changes. So everything for the expanded scene starts up here. So I'm going to add a new comment. This is the expanded scene. And we can copy all of this code, including the comment, and we'll paste it below and we'll change things for the collapsed scene. So let's go through this line by line. So instead of mExpandedScene, we want to use mCollapsedScene. This also appears down here, so I'm going to copy and paste. Now in here we said we would return to the original layout, so let's get rid of underscore expanded. Okay, now the enter action can remain the same. We still want to call populate and have Butterknife bind. But now we want to change the name for expand transition set. So this can be the reverse collapse transition set. And then I'm going to copy and paste where it appears 1, 2, and 3. Now we said we need to change the order of the change bounds and the fade. So let's cut the change bounds. We'll change the name in a moment and move it below the fade. Notice that now the fade transition will be added first and the change bounds transition will be added second. Okay, so let's change the name here. Fade lyrics. The lyrics are now going to fade out. So let's call this fade out lyrics. I'm just going to paste it where it's used in these 3 places. And the change bounds is going to reset the bounds. So let's call this reset bounds. And this is used here on the next 2 lines below. Okay, so this is a pretty good start. Let's take a short break and then we'll come back and finish the rest of this transition back and forth.